Admiral Tae-min stood at the wide window of the human ship. Determination. He watched the massive space station called Nexus grow larger as they flew closer. The station was huge, bigger than any human city. It spun slowly in the darkness of space, its lights creating patterns that hurt his eyes to look at for too long. "Sir, we will dock in 10 minutes, said Captain Bo-Ram as she walked up behind him. Her voice was calm, but Taemin could hear the worry hiding underneath. They both knew this meeting would change everything for humanity. The Galactic Council had called this meeting. They said it was important. They said humanity needed to hear what they had to say. But Taemin had been in space long enough to know that when powerful people said they wanted to talk, it usually meant they wanted to give orders. "Any word from Earth?" Taemin asked without turning around. "President Hyun-woo sends his wishes for success. He also says to remember that we speak for all humans today." Bo-Ram moved to stand next to him. "The pressure readings from the station show they have at least 50 different species there today. This is bigger than usual." Taemin nodded. 50 species meant this was not just another trade meeting or border discussion. This was something that would affect the whole galaxy. The docking was smooth. Human ships were smaller than most alien vessels, but they were built well. The Determination settled into its assigned spot with barely a shake. Taemin straightened his uniform and checked his translator device one more time. "Ready, Captain?" "Yes, sir. The diplomatic team is waiting." They walked through the corridors of their ship toward the airlock. The crew they passed stood a little, straighter when they saw their admiral. These men and women had served with him for years. They trusted him to do right by humanity. The weight of that trust felt heavy on his shoulders. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The air from Nexus Station flowed in, carrying strange smells that the filters could not quite remove. It smelled like metal and something else. Something alien that human noses were not made to understand. Two tall creatures waited for them in the docking bay. They had blue skin that seemed to shine under the lights. Their eyes were large and dark, and they wore robes that moved like water. "Welcome, humans," said the first one. Its voice came through the translator as smooth and cold. "I am Guide Nethara. The Council waits for you." Taemin had met many alien species in his 20 years of service. Some were friendly, some were not. But all of them looked at humans the same way, like humans were children who had wandered into a room full of adults. They followed the guide through the station. The corridors were wide and tall, built for species much larger than humans. The walls showed moving pictures of different worlds and star systems. Some were beautiful, with blue oceans and green forests. Others looked like nothing but rock and fire. Other aliens walked past them. Most ignored the human group completely. A few stopped to stare. Taemin had learned not to take it personally. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Most species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humanity had only been doing it for about 100. "The council chamber is just ahead," said Guide Nethara. "You will be announced and then allowed to enter. Remember that the council speaks for over 300 species. Show proper respect." The doors to the council chamber were massive. They were made of some kind of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved deep into the surface. As the doors opened, a wave of sound hit them. Hundreds of voices speaking in languages that the translators could barely handle. The chamber was shaped like a bowl. Seats rose up in circles around a central floor where a single podium stood. Most of the seats were filled. Taemin had never seen so many different kinds of life in one place. Some aliens were tall and thin like trees. Others were short and wide like boulders. Some seemed to be made of metal, while others looked like they were made of liquid. "The human delegation," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The talking stopped. Hundreds of eyes, in all different shapes and colors, turned to look at the small group of humans. The silence felt heavy and dangerous. Taemin led his team down to the central floor. Each step echoed in the huge chamber. When they reached the podium, he turned to face the council. In the highest seats sat the most important members. Taemin recognized Chancellor Thissarak of the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthak looked like giant insects, with 4 arms and skin that changed colors based on their mood. Right now, The Chancellor's skin was dark red, which meant anger or aggression. Next, to the Chancellor sat High Arbiter Quelnara of the Zilani Confederation. The Zilani were known for being smart and careful. They had 3 eyes and skin like silver. Quelnara watched the humans with all 3 eyes, never blinking. "Humans," said Chancellor Thissarak. His voice boomed through the chamber even with the translator. "You have been called here because the Galactic Council has concerns about your species." Captain Boram stepped forward. As the chief diplomat, it was her job to speak first. "Honored Council members, humanity is grateful for this opportunity to address your concerns. We have always tried to follow galactic law and work with other species in peace." A sound like laughter came from several parts of the chamber, but it was not friendly laughter. "Peace?" said High Arbiter Quelnara. Her voice was quieter than the Chancellor's, but somehow more frightening. "Your species has established colonies on 47 worlds in the past 20 years. You have built warships faster than any species in recorded history. Your technology advances at a rate that threatens the stability of established galactic order." Taman felt his heartbeat faster. This was worse than he had expected. Chancellor Thissarak stood up, his 4 arms spread wide as he spoke. "The Council has decided that humanity poses a clear threat to galactic peace. Therefore, we have reached a decision about how to handle this threat." The chamber became completely silent. Even the soft sounds of alien breathing seemed to stop. "Humanity will surrender 60% of your colony worlds to Council administration within 30 standard days. Your military will be reduced to 20% of current size. All technological research will be supervised by Council scientists. These terms are not open to discussion." Taman felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. 60% of human colonies meant millions of people. It meant giving up worlds that humans had worked and died to build. Captain Boram's voice shook when she spoke. "Honored Council, these terms would destroy human civilization. Surely there must be room for negotiation." "There is no negotiation," said Quelnara. "Comply or face complete economic embargo. Refuse the embargo and military action will follow. The choice is yours, but the terms remain the same." Other council members began to speak, all saying the same thing in different ways. Humanity was too dangerous. Humanity had grown too fast. Humanity needed to be controlled before they caused problems for everyone else. Taman listened to it all. He thought about the human colonies where children played in parks built on worlds their parents had tamed. He thought about the explorers who had died finding new homes for humanity among the stars. He thought about Earth, where billions of people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of the future. When the council finished speaking, Chancellor Thissarak looked down at the human delegation. "You have 30 days to give us your answer, but understand this clearly. The decision has already been made. The only question is whether humanity will accept its new place in the galaxy willingly or by force." The massive doors opened again. Guide Nethara appeared to lead them out. As they walked back through the corridors of Nexus Station, none of the humans spoke. The weight of what they had heard was too heavy for words. Only when they were back on their own ship did Taman finally break the silence. "Set course for Earth," he told the bridge crew. "Maximum speed." "Yes, sir," came the reply. "Should I send a message ahead?" Taman looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were human families who had no idea their worlds were about to be taken away. Somewhere out there were human scientists working to make life better for everyone. Somewhere out there were human soldiers who had sworn to protect their species from exactly this kind of threat. "Send this message," he said slowly. "Tell President Hyunwoo that the Council has given us 30 days to surrender everything we have built, or they will take it by force." He paused and looked at Captain Boram. Her face was pale but determined. "Also tell him," Tae-min continued, "that Admiral Tae-min recommends we prepare for war." President Hyunwoo sat at the head of the long table in the emergency meeting room. The room was deep underground, built to survive almost anything. Around the table sat the most important people in human space. Their faces were grim as they listened to Admiral Tae-min's report. 60% of our colonies, repeated General So-young, her voice flat with disbelief. "They want us to give up 60% of our colonies and reduce our military by 80%, added Secretary Yunji. She was looking at papers covered with numbers, but her hands were shaking slightly. Mr. President, if we agree to these terms, we might as well surrender our independence completely. President Hyun-woo had been elected because people trusted him to make hard decisions. He was not the smartest person in the room, but he listened well and he cared about humanity's future. Right now, that future looked very dark. What about negotiation? Asked Dr. Jin-ho from the far end of the table. As chief science advisor, he was used to solving problems by thinking them through. Surely there must be some middle ground? Admiral Taemin shook his head. I was there, Dr. Jin-ho. They made it clear that these terms cannot be changed. The Council has decided that humanity is too dangerous to leave alone. Dangerous? General So-young laughed, but there was no humor in it. We have been in space for 100 years. Most of these species have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. How are we dangerous to them? Because we learn fast, said Dr. Jin-ho quietly. Because we adapt. Because in 100 years, we have done what took most species 500 years to do. The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. Humanity had spread through space faster than anyone expected. Human technology had improved at a rate that surprised even other humans. Human colonies were successful where other species had failed. Dr. Jin-ho, said President Hyun-woo, you have been working on some special projects that we have kept secret from the Council. Are any of them ready? Dr. Jin-ho looked around the table nervously. Some of them are closer than others. The Phoenix Protocol that we discussed last year has made good progress. Explain it to everyone, ordered the President. Dr. Jin-ho stood up and walked to the wall screen. With a few touches, he brought up pictures of starships and technical drawings that looked like nothing anyone had seen before. The Phoenix Protocol has 3 main parts, he began. First, new jump drive technology that works differently from anything the Council species use. Our drives can make shorter jumps, but they can make them much faster and without the long charging time that Council ships need. He touched the screen again. A new picture appeared showing a sleek warship. Second, we have developed new weapons and defense systems. Our railguns can fire projectiles faster than most alien ships can. Track. Our defensive screens can stop energy weapons that the Council thinks are unstoppable. General So-young leaned forward. How much faster are our new drives? A Council ship needs about 10 minutes to charge for a jump. Our new drives can jump, again in less than 30 seconds. In a battle, that means we can appear, attack, and disappear before enemy ships can respond. Secretary Yoon-ji was taking notes quickly. What about the third part? Communication, said Dr. Jin-ho. We have created quantum communication arrays that work instantly across any distance. Council ships still use old communication methods that take time to travel between star systems. With our new arrays, every human ship and colony can talk to each other in real time. President Hyun-woo studied the pictures on the screen. How many ships do we have with this new technology? 12 prototype warships are ready for testing. We could have 50 more ready in 6 months if we push our shipyards to maximum production. 50 ships against the entire Galactic Council? Asked General So-young. That sounds like suicide. Maybe, said Dr. Jin-ho. But these 50 ships would be unlike anything the Council has ever fought. And we would not be fighting all of the Council at once. Most Council species do not really want to fight. They just follow the lead of the strongest members. Admiral Taemin spoke up. Dr. Jin-ho is right about that. In the Council chamber, I could see that many species were uncomfortable with the ultimatum. The Vorthak and the Zalani were pushing for these harsh terms, but others looked uncertain. Secretary Yoon-ji set down her pen. Mr. President, we need to consider the practical side of this. If we fight the Council and lose, the terms they give us afterward will be much worse than what they are offering now. At least if we agree to their demands, some humans will survive. Survive as slaves, said General So-young. Yoon-ji, I understand your concern. But look at what they are asking. 60% of our colonies means abandoning millions of people. Many of those worlds cannot support themselves without supplies from other human colonies. People will die either way. President Hyun-woo was quiet for a long time. He looked at each person around the table. These were good people who wanted to do what was best for humanity. but they could not agree on what that was. "Admiral Taemin," he said finally, "what was your impression of the Council's confidence? Do they think we will fight?" "No, sir. They expect us to surrender." Chancellor Thissarak acted like our acceptance was certain. They believe that any smart species would choose survival over pride. And what about our own people? If we choose to fight, will humanity stand together? Admiral Taemin thought about the crew on his ship. He thought about the colonists he had met on dozens of worlds. "Yes, sir. Humans do not like to be pushed around. When someone tells us we cannot do something, we usually try to prove them wrong." Dr. Jinho cleared his throat. "Mr. President, there is something else you should know about the Phoenix Protocol." "What is it?" "The quantum communication arrays can do more than just let our ships talk to each other. We can use them to intercept Council communications. We have been listening to their messages for the past 6 months." Everyone at the table stared at him. Secretary Yunji dropped her pen. "You have been spying on the Galactic Council?" she asked. "Learning," corrected Dr. Jinho. "And what we learned is important. The Council is not as united as they want us to believe. Several species are unhappy with Vorthak and Zelani leadership. Some smaller species have been asking questions about why the Council gets to control galactic technology development." General So-young leaned back in her chair. "Are you saying we might have allies?" "I am saying that if we fight back successfully, we might not be fighting alone for very long." President Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of the capital city. Millions of people were going about their normal lives, not knowing that their leaders were deciding whether to surrender their freedom or risk everything in a war they might not win. "Secretary Yunji," he said without turning around, "I want you to prepare 2 sets of documents, one accepting the Council's terms and one rejecting them completely." "Yes, sir." "General So-young, I want you to meet with Admiral Taemin and plan how we would defend our colonies if war comes. Assume we will have the new technology that Dr. Jinho described." "Understood." "Dr. Jinho, I want you to contact Engineer Dong-hyun immediately. Tell him to accelerate the Phoenix Protocol. I want those 50 ships ready in 3 months, not 6. "Mr. President," said Secretary Yunji carefully, "that sounds like you have already made your decision." President Hyunwoo turned around to face the table. "I have lived for 67 years. I have seen humanity go from one world to dozens of worlds. I have seen us solve problems that other species said were impossible. I have seen human children born on worlds that their grandparents never dreamed existed." He walked back to his chair, but did not sit down. "The Council wants us to believe that we are too young and too dangerous to be trusted with our own future. They want us to give up everything we have built because they are afraid of what we might build next." The room was completely quiet. "But I have seen what humans can do when someone tells us something is impossible. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We find a way to win." He looked around the table one more time. "Dr. Jinho, how long before?" "The Council expects our answer?" 27 days, sir. Then we have 27 days to show them what happens when you pressure humanity too far." President Hyunwoo sat down and picked up the secure communication device. "Get me Engineer Dong-hyun on priority channel. Tell him the Phoenix Protocol is now our highest priority." He paused and looked at Admiral Taemin. "Also, send a message to all colony governors. Tell them to begin emergency preparations, but do not tell them why yet. We will make our announcement to the people tomorrow." "What will you tell them?" asked Secretary Yunji. "The truth," said President Hyunwoo, "that humanity has been ordered to surrender its freedom and that we have decided to refuse." As the meeting ended and people began to leave, General So-young approached the president. "Sir, are you certain about this decision? Once we refuse, there will be no going back." President Hyunwoo smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "General, my grandfather used to tell me that the only fights worth winning are the ones you cannot afford to lose. Humanity cannot afford to lose this one." The message from Earth reached every human colony at the same time. Dr. Hyejin's new quantum communication system made sure that no human world was left in the dark about what was coming. On New Busan, Colony Administrator Min Seo read the message 3 times before she believed it. The Galactic Council wanted humans to give up 60% of their worlds. President Hyunwoo had refused. War was coming. She looked out the window of her office at the city below. New Busan was home to 2 million people. They had built farms that grew food in the planet's strange soil. They had built factories that made tools and machines. They had built schools where children learned about Earth and about their new home among the stars. The council wanted to take all of that away. Min Seo touched the communication button on her desk. "This is Administrator Min Seo to all department heads. Emergency meeting in conference room 1 in 10 minutes. She had been a colony administrator for 8 years. She had dealt with equipment failures, bad weather, and supply shortages. But she had never had to prepare her people for war. The department heads arrived quickly. Security Chief Kyung-ho came first, followed by Agricultural Director Sang-mi, Medical Chief Ju-won, and Industrial Coordinator Tai-ho. They all looked worried. "You have all seen the message from Earth," Min Seo began. "The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum, and President Hyun-woo has refused it. That means New Busan might become a target." "What kind of target?" asked Security Chief Kyung-ho. "Are we talking about invasion or bombardment? We do not know yet, but we need to prepare for both possibilities." Agricultural Director Sang-mi raised her hand. "What about evacuation? Should we start moving people to safer worlds?" "There are no safer worlds," said Min Seo sadly. "Every human colony is at risk now. Our job is to make New Busan as hard to take as possible." She activated the wall screen and brought up a map of the colony. "Kyung-ho, I want you to work with the military advisor from Earth. Start training civilian volunteers for defense. Everyone who wants to help should learn how to use basic weapons and communication equipment." "Yes, ma'am. How many weapons do we have?" "Not enough. But Industrial Coordinator Tai-ho will help us make more." Tai-ho nodded. "Our factories can be converted to make simple weapons and ammunition. It will take time, but we can do it." Medical Chief Ju-won, "We need to prepare for casualties. Set up emergency medical stations throughout the city. Train as many people as possible in basic first aid." The meeting continued for 2 hours. They planned supply caches, communication networks, and evacuation routes. It was not easy to turn a peaceful colony into a fortress, but they would try. Meanwhile, in deep space near the council border, Commander Jae-sung was conducting a very different kind of preparation. His ship, the Shadow's Edge, was one of the new stealth vessels that Dr. Jin-ho had designed. It could move through space without being detected by most council sensors. "Sensor contact," reported Lieutenant Woo Seon from her station. "Large council. Fleet, bearing 270. "How large?" asked Jae-sung. "At least 50 ships, sir. Mixed species, but I see several Vorthak dreadnoughts." Jae-sung studied the display screen. The Council fleet was positioning itself near the Kepler system, one of humanity's most important colonies. They were not hiding their movements. They wanted humans to see them and be afraid. "Begin recording," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what types of ships they have, what weapons they carry, and how they move in formation." The Shadow's Edge spent 6 hours watching the Council fleet. Jae-sung's crew recorded everything. They learned that Council ships were powerful but slow. They learned that different species had trouble coordinating with each other. They learned that the Council expected this to be a quick and easy war. They were wrong about that. Back on Earth, Dr. Hyojin was working 18-hour days to expand the quantum communication network. The success of her system had surprised even her. Every human ship and colony could now talk to each other instantly, no matter how far apart they were. But the system could do more than just carry human messages. It could also intercept alien communications that passed through the same areas of space. "Dr. Hyojin," called her assistant. "Engineer Min-ho, you need to see this." She walked over to his workstation and looked at the translated message on his screen. "This is from a Zalani commander to his fleet," Min-ho explained. "He is complaining that the Vorthak are giving orders without consulting other species." Hyojin read the message carefully. "The Zalani commander says his people are only following council policy, but they do not like being treated as servants by the Vorthak." "There are more messages like this," said Min-ho. "Several species are unhappy with how this situation is being handled." Dr. Hyojin smiled for the first time in days. "Send copies of all these messages to Admiral Tae-min. He needs to know that the council is not as united as they pretend to be. In the Tau Ceti system, Captain Wu Jin was learning the same lesson in a more direct way. His patrol squadron had been monitoring the system's jump points when Council ships appeared. 3 ships dropping out of jump space, reported his sensor officer. They are broadcasting Council authority codes. This is Captain Wu Jin of the Human Patrol Vessel Defender. He broadcast on open channels. Tau Ceti is human space. State your business here. The reply came from the largest Council ship, a Vorthak cruiser. This is Commander Nethkol. We are conducting a routine inspection of this system under Council authority. All human vessels will withdraw immediately. Captain Wu Jin looked at his small squadron. 3 patrol ships against a cruiser and 2 destroyers. Under normal circumstances, it would not be much of a fight. But these were not normal circumstances. Commander Nethkol, human vessels do not withdraw from human space. If you wish to inspect our system, you will need to follow proper diplomatic procedures. There was a long pause before the Vorthak commander replied. Human vessel, you will comply with Council authority or face the consequences. Negative, Commander. This system is under human protection. What happened next surprised everyone, including Captain Wu Jin himself. Instead of attacking immediately, the Council ships hesitated. Commander Nethkol tried to contact his superiors for instructions, but human jamming systems disrupted his communications with the main Council fleet. For 20 minutes, the 2 groups of ships faced each other in space. Finally, the Council ships jumped away without firing a shot. Sir, asked Wu Jin's second officer, why did they retreat? Captain Wu Jin thought about it. Because they were not expecting resistance. The Council thought we would surrender as soon as they showed up. The news of Captain Wu Jin's success spread quickly through the human communication network. On Tsadibai, every colony, in every ship, humans heard the same message. The mighty Galactic Council could be faced down by 3 patrol ships and a brave captain. Colony Administrator Min Seo heard the news while she was inspecting the new defense positions around Nubusan. They backed down, she told Security Chief Kyung Ho. 3 human ships made a Council squadron retreat. Does that mean we are winning? Asked Kyung Ho. No, said Min Seo, but it means we can win. The Council expected us to be afraid. They expected us to surrender without a fight. When we refuse to do what they expect, they do not know how to respond. On the Shadow's Edge, Commander Jae Sung received new orders from Admiral Taemin. Instead of just watching Council fleets, he was now authorized to interfere with their operations. What does that mean exactly? Asked Lieutenant Wu Xian. It means we stop being observers and start being participants, replied Jae Sung. The Council wants to position their fleets to threaten our colonies. Our job is to make that as difficult as possible. The Shadow's Edge began a campaign of disruption that frustrated Council commanders. They would find their communication signals jammed at critical moments. Their supply ships would discover that their cargo had been contaminated with harmless but annoying substances. Their patrol routes would be monitored and recorded, making it impossible for them to move without human forces knowing about it. Dr. Jin Ho's technology was proving its worth. Human ships could appear anywhere without warning, gather information, and disappear before Council forces could respond. The quantum communication system meant that every piece of intelligence was shared instantly with all human forces. But the most important discovery came from Dr. Haya Jin's communication intercepts. The Council was not just facing resistance from humans. Several member species were asking uncomfortable questions about why this war was necessary. The Kithara, who were known for being peaceful traders, sent a message asking why diplomacy had not been tried first. The Morvani, who were skilled engineers, questioned whether human technology was really as dangerous as the Vorthak claimed. Even some Zalani commanders expressed doubt about whether the war was wise. Admiral, reported Dr. Haya Jin during a secure communication with Admiral Taemin, the Council is having internal problems. If we can hold out long enough, some species might withdraw their support. How long is long enough? Asked Taemin. Unknown, sir. But every day we resist makes the Council look weaker. Every day we survive makes other species wonder if they chose the wrong side. Admiral Taemin studied the reports from all over human space. Colony defenses were being built. Human ships were disrupting Council Oper. The attack came at dawn on 3 different worlds at the same time. The Galactic Council called it Operation Compliance. They expected it to be over in a few hours. Admiral Subin was drinking her morning coffee on the command ship Resilience when the alarm started screaming. She had been expecting this moment for weeks, but it still felt like ice water in her veins when it finally came. "Contact report!" she called as she ran onto the bridge. "Multiple Council fleets dropping out of jump space throughout the Kepler system," reported Lieutenant Commander Jun-Soo. "I count at least 60 ships, mixed species formations." Subin looked at the tactical display. Red dots were appearing all around the system, far more than her defenders could handle in a straight fight. The Council had brought enough firepower to destroy every human ship twice over. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Execute Plan Phoenix." Plan Phoenix was something new. Instead of trying to meet the Council fleets head-on, human ships would use their new jump drives to attack and retreat quickly. They would hit the enemy where they were weak, then disappear before the Council could organize a response. "All ships report ready for Phoenix operations," said Jun-Soo. "Begin the dance," ordered Subin. The first Council mistake was assuming that human ships would fight like Council ships. Vorthak commanders expected their enemies to form battle lines and exchange fire until one side was destroyed. That was how space battles had been fought for thousands of years. But humans had only been fighting in space for a few decades. They had not learned the old rules, so they felt free to break them. The destroyer Swift appeared behind a Zalani cruiser, fired a full spread of railgun rounds, and jumped away before the cruiser could turn its weapons around. The cruiser's shields absorbed most of the damage, but the surprise attack confused the Zalani captain. 3 minutes later, the Swift appeared on the other side of the same cruiser and fired again. This time, the railgun rounds punched through the shields and damaged the ship's engines. "This is Cruiser Commander Yathara. To all Council ships," came a transmission that Dr. Hai-Jin's systems intercepted. "Human vessels are using non-standard tactics. They appear to have no honor in battle." Admiral Subin smiled when she heard that. "Honor is what people talk about when they are losing," she told her bridge crew. The battle continued for 6 hours. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, always attacking where the Council least expected it. The new jump drives that Dr. Jin-Ho had designed worked perfectly, allowing human ships to jump in, fire, and jump out faster than Council ships could respond. But the real surprise came when Captain Kyung-Soo arrived in the experimental warship Defiance. The Defiance was built using every piece of new technology that human scientists had developed. Its hull was made of materials that absorbed most energy weapons. Its jump drive was twice as fast as any other ship in the galaxy. Its weapons were designed to punch through any known shield system. "This is Captain Kyung-Soo to Admiral Subin. Defiance is ready for combat operations. Show them what human engineering can do, Captain." The Defiance jumped into the middle of the largest Council formation. For a moment, the alien ships did not even fire, because they could not believe that a single ship would attack a whole fleet. That moment of hesitation was all Captain Kyung-Soo needed. The Defiance fired its main weapons at the Council flagship, a massive Vorthak dreadnought that was supposed to be unstoppable. The human railgun rounds moved so fast that the dreadnought's point defense systems could not track them. They punched through the ship's shields like they were not even there. The dreadnought did not explode. It just stopped working. Its engines went dark, its weapons went silent, and it began to drift helplessly through space. "Impossible," came a transmission from the Vorthak admiral. "Our shields are rated against all known weapons." "Your shields have never faced human weapons," replied Captain Kyung-Soo just before the Defiance jumped away. The psychological effect was immediate. Council ships that had been advancing confidently suddenly became cautious. Captains who had expected an easy victory began to worry about what other surprises the humans might have. But the biggest surprise was still coming. Chief Engineer Yu Jin had been working on something called quantum-entangled minefields. The mines themselves were small and almost impossible to detect, but they were all connected through quantum entanglement, which meant they could share information instantly across any distance. When a Council ship approached one mine, all the other mines in the field would know about it immediately. They could coordinate their attacks in ways that no enemy could predict or counter. "Admiral Subin," reported Engineer Yu Jin from the research station on Kepler Prime. "The minefield is ready for activation." "Do it," ordered Subin. The mines had been placed secretly over the past month, floating invisibly throughout the Kepler system. There were thousands of them, too small for Council sensors to detect, but smart enough to work together. When the Yei Council fleet tried to advance on Kepler Prime. They ran into the minefield. But instead of random explosions, the mines attacked in perfect coordination. They concentrated their fire on the weakest ships first, destroying escorts and support vessels before the capital ships even knew they were under attack. "What is happening?" demanded the Vorthak fleet commander. "Our sensors show no enemies, but our ships are being destroyed." The mines were too small and too fast for Council weapons to target effectively. They swarmed around the larger ships like angry insects, hitting weak points in armor and shields with surgical precision. Within an hour, the Council fleet had lost a third of its ships to an enemy they could not see or fight effectively. "All Council ships withdraw to safe distance," ordered the Vorthak commander. "We need to reassess the tactical situation." Admiral Subin watched as the mighty Council fleet retreated from human space. It was the first time in over 200 years that a Council military operation had been forced to withdraw. "Signal. To all human forces," she ordered. "The Kepler system remains under human control." The news spread through the quantum communication network instantly. Every human ship, every human colony, every human family heard the same message. Humanity had faced the full power of the Galactic Council and won. On New Busan, colony administrator Min Seo received the news while she was inspecting the defense positions that her people had built. Security Chief Kyung-ho read the message aloud to the volunteers who had been training to defend their homes. "The Council fleet has retreated from Kepler," he announced. "Admiral Subin reports that human forces have achieved complete victory." The volunteers cheered. These were farmers and teachers and factory workers who had never expected to fight in a war. But they had prepared to defend their world, and now they were hearing that humanity could win this fight. But Min Seo knew that one victory did not mean the war was over. The Council had thousands of ships and hundreds of member species. They would not give up after one defeat. "This is just the beginning," she told Kyung-ho quietly. "They will come back with more ships and better plans. Will we be ready?" Min Seo looked at the volunteers who were still celebrating. Young and old, they had all volunteered to risk their lives for their home. They were not trained soldiers, but they had something that Council forces did not have. They were fighting for everything they cared about. "Yes," she said, "we will be ready." In space near the Council border, Commander Jae-sung on the Shadow's Edge was intercepting emergency communications between Council commanders. "The human technology is beyond our calculations," reported one Zalani captain to his superiors. "Their ships can jump faster than our targeting systems can track. Their weapons penetrate shields that should be impenetrable. Their minds appear to be controlled by some form of artificial intelligence that we do not understand." Another transmission came from a Vorthak admiral. "Request immediate reinforcements. Human resistance is much stronger than intelligence predicted. We need time to develop new tactics." But the most interesting message came from a species that Jae-sung had never heard of before. The Cathara were known as peaceful traders who rarely spoke during council meetings. "This is Trader Captain Yethnol to the Cathara Council of Merchants," the message said. "The humans fight with honor to defend their homes. Their technology is advanced but not aggressive. I question whether this war serves the interests of galactic peace." Jae-sung immediately forwarded all the intercepted messages to Admiral Tae-min. The council was not as confident as they wanted to appear. More importantly, some species were beginning to question whether the war was necessary. On Earth, President Hyun-woo was meeting with his advisors when the news from Kepler arrived. The mood in the emergency meeting room was very different from their first gathering weeks ago. "Admiral Subin has achieved something remarkable," reported General So-young. "But the Council will not accept this defeat quietly. They will reorganize and attack again with greater force." "How much greater?" asked President Hyun-woo. "Unknown, sir. But they have resources that we cannot match in a long war." Dr. Jin-ho had a different perspective. "General So-young is right that they have more ships. But our technology gives us advantages that they do not understand yet. Every battle teaches us more about how to fight them effectively." "What about the political situation?" As 3 months after the Battle of Kepler, the war had changed completely. The Galactic Council no longer talked about quick victory. Instead, they were asking how a primitive species had managed to hold off the combined might of 300 civilizations. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Sovereign. The ship was twice the size of his old vessel and equipped with every piece of advanced technology that human scientists could create. Around him, the largest human fleet in history was preparing for Operation Sovereign's Right. "Admiral," reported Captain Hee-young from the communications station, "all strike groups report ready for jump." "Signal from the Phantom Wing," added Lieutenant Su-jin. Commander Sai-woo confirms that his Special Forces teams are in position. Taemin looked at the tactical display showing the Council supply depot at Nexus 7. The depot supplied fuel and ammunition to 12 different Council fleets. If the operation succeeded, those fleets would be stranded without supplies, unable to continue their attacks on human colonies. "Begin Operation Sovereign's Right," ordered Taemin. The human fleet jumped into the Nexus 7 system in 3 waves. The first wave, led by Captain Kyung-soo in the Defiance, attacked the depot's defenses directly. The second wave, commanded by Admiral Su-bin, moved to intercept any Council reinforcements. The third wave stayed in reserve, ready to exploit whatever opportunities the battle created. But the real surprise came from Commander Sai-woo and his Void Walkers. The Void Walkers were humanity's newest weapon, soldiers trained for zero-gravity combat and ship infiltration. They wore armor that made them nearly invisible to most sensors. They carried weapons designed to work in the vacuum of space. Most importantly, they thought like humans, which meant they did things that no alien enemy expected. While the Council, defenders focused on the attacking human fleet, the Void Walkers used small stealth ships to approach the depot from unexpected directions. They attached themselves to the station's hull and began cutting their way inside. "This is Void Walker leader to Admiral Taemin," reported Sai-woo through quantum communication. "We are inside the station, beginning search for intelligence targets." The Void Walkers moved through the station like ghosts. Council security forces were trained to fight other aliens who thought in predictable ways. But humans were different. They went through maintenance shafts that other species considered too small. They hid in areas that other species found uncomfortable. They attacked from directions that other species never defended. "Admiral," reported Sai-woo 20 minutes later, "we have found something important. This is not just a supply depot. It is also a command and communication center. We can access Council military communications from here." "Can you capture it intact?" asked Taemin. "Already working on it, sir. Give us 10 more minutes." The battle outside continued while the Void Walkers worked inside the station. Human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of Council defenders. The quantum-entangled SF minefields that Engineer Yu-jin had perfected made it almost impossible for Council ships to approach the depot safely. "Admiral," reported Si-woo, "we have control of the communication center, downloading all intelligence data now. But, sir, there is something else you need to know." "What is it?" "The Council has been lying to its own members. According to these files, several species voted against this war, but their votes were ignored. The Vorthak and Zelani have been making decisions for the entire Council without proper authority. This was bigger than just military intelligence. This was proof that the Galactic Council was not the democratic organization it claimed to be." "Download everything," ordered Taemin. "We need that information." "Already on it, sir." "But we are about to have company. Council security forces have figured out we are here." The battle inside the station was brief but intense. Council security troops were well-trained and well-equipped, but they had never fought humans before. The Void Walkers used tactics that confused and frustrated their enemies. They moved in 3 dimensions while Council troops thought in 2. They attacked from above and below while their enemies focused on front and back. "Void Walker team secured," reported Sai-woo. "Intelligence data successfully downloaded. We are ready for extraction." "All human forces, begin withdrawal," ordered Admiral Taemin. "Mission accomplished." The human fleet jumped away from Nexus 7, leaving behind a crippled supply depot and very confused Council defenders. But more importantly, they carried with them information that would change the course of the war. Back on Earth, Dr. Young-mi led a team of diplomats and scientists in analyzing the captured Council data. What they found was shocking, even to people who already distrusted the Council. "President Hyan-woo," she reported during an emergency meeting, "the Council is not what we thought it was. According to these files, only 12 species actually voted for this war. The other species were told that the vote was unanimous, but that was a lie. "Which species voted against the war?" asked the president. "The Kithara, the Morvani, the Rithani, and 9 others. All of them are smaller species who have been dominated by the Vorthak and Zelani for centuries." Secretary Yunji was taking notes rapidly. "Can we contact these species directly?" "We are already trying," said Dr. Young Mai. "The quantum communication system allows us to send messages that the Council cannot intercept or block. We have made contact with 3 species so far." "What are they saying?" "They are angry. They feel betrayed by the Council leadership. Some of them are asking if humanity would be willing to form a different kind of alliance." President Yunwu leaned back in his chair. This was the opportunity they had been hoping for, but it was also dangerous. If humanity could convince Council species to switch sides, the war might end quickly. But if the attempt failed, it could make the Council more determined to destroy humanity completely. "Dr. Youngmi, I want you to prepare a message to all the species who voted against this war. Tell them that humanity offers friendship and cooperation to any species who values freedom over forced submission." "What about the species who voted for the war?" asked General So Young. "We will deal with them as enemies until they choose to become friends," replied the president. "But we will always leave the door open for them to change their minds." The message went out through the quantum communication network to every species in the galaxy. It was simple and direct. Humanity had not wanted this war, but they would not surrender their freedom to end it. Any species who wanted peace based on equality and respect was welcome to join the Free Worlds Alliance. The response was immediate and surprising. The Kithara were the first to reply. "We accept the human offer of alliance," their message said. "We are tired of being told what to do by species who care nothing for our opinions." The Morvani followed quickly. "Human technology is impressive, but human principles are more impressive. We choose freedom." Within a week, 15 species had withdrawn from the Galactic Council and joined the Free Worlds Alliance. They were not the largest or most powerful species, but they controlled important trade routes and manufacturing centers. The Council's response was predictable. They declared the allied species to be rebels and traitors. Chancellor Tesseract announced that any species supporting humanity would face the same fate as humanity. But the threat had less power now. The Council had already shown that they could not defeat humanity easily. If they could not handle one species, how could they handle 16 species working together? Admiral Taemin received new orders from President Hyun-woo. Protect the allied species and help them defend themselves against Council retaliation. It was a big job, but human technology made it possible. Dr. Jin-ho's quantum communication arrays were installed on allied worlds, allowing instant coordination between all Free Worlds forces. Engineer Yujin's minefield technology was shared with allied species, giving them powerful defensive capabilities. Most importantly, human military advisors helped allied forces learn new tactics that could defeat traditional Council strategies. The war was no longer humanity against the galaxy. It was the Free Worlds Alliance against the Galactic Council, and the alliance was growing stronger every day. But the most important moment came when President Hyun-woo made his famous broadcast to the entire galaxy. Using the quantum communication network, his words reached every inhabited world in known space. "People of the galaxy," he began. 3 months ago, the Galactic Council demanded that humanity surrender its freedom or face destruction. We chose freedom. Today, I speak not just for humanity, but for all species who believe that freedom is worth fighting for. The broadcast continued for 10 minutes. President Hyun-woo explained that the Free Worlds Alliance welcomed any species who wanted to govern themselves rather than be governed by others. He promised that the alliance would defend its members but would never force other species to join. "We choose freedom over peace," he concluded, "dignity over submission, and cooperation over domination. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to live as we choose, if we have the courage to make that choice." The broadcast was heard on thousands of worlds. On most Council worlds, the government tried to block the signal, but the quantum communication system could not be stopped by traditional methods. Within days, protests began on dozens of Council worlds. 1 year after the first Council ultimatum, Admiral Hae-won stood in the command center of the Free Worlds Alliance headquarters on Kepler Prime. The room was filled with beings from 47 different species, all working together to coordinate. The largest military operation in galactic history. But this was not an operation of conquest. It was an operation of liberation. "Admiral," reported Captain Jun-Ho from the diplomatic station, "the Vorthak Empire has just lost 3 more systems. Local populations have declared independence and requested alliance protection." HFY looked at the galactic map displayed on the main screen. Red areas showed territory still controlled by the remnants of the Galactic Council. Blue areas showed Free World's alliance members. Green areas showed neutral systems that had chosen independence. Without joining either side, the map was mostly blue and green now. "What about the Zalani Confederation?" asked HFY. "Still fighting, but their fleet has been reduced to less than 30 ships. Most of their member species have switched sides or declared neutrality. The collapse of the Galactic Council had been faster than anyone expected. Once the first few species broke away, others quickly followed. The Council's authority had been based on the belief that resistance was impossible. When humanity proved that wrong, the entire system fell apart. "Admiral HFY," came a transmission from Captain Young-Soo, aboard the diplomatic vessel New. "Horizon, we have received a communication from Chancellor Thyserak himself. He is requesting a meeting." HFY was surprised. The Vorthak Chancellor had been the most aggressive supporter of the war against humanity. He had called humans a plague that must be eliminated, and a threat to civilized galactic order. "What does he want to discuss?" "He did not say, Admiral. But his empire now consists of only 12 systems, and his military has been reduced to less than 100 ships. I believe he wants to discuss surrender terms." The irony was complete. The species that had demanded humanity's surrender was now asking to surrender to humanity. "Tell the Chancellor that Admiral HFY will meet with him, but only if he comes to Alliance space under flag of truce. We will not negotiate from a position of weakness like they demanded from us." 3 days later, Chancellor Thyserak arrived at Kepler Prime aboard a single diplomatic vessel. The mighty Vorthak Empire that had once commanded thousands of ships was now represented by one small, unarmed craft. Admiral HFY met the Chancellor in the same conference room where human diplomats had once planned their desperate resistance. But now, the room was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all equals in the Free World's alliance. Chancellor Thyserak looked older and smaller than he had during the council sessions. His skin, which had once shown the confident reds of anger and dominance, now displayed the pale colors of defeat and uncertainty. "Admiral HFY," he began in heavily accented human language, "I come to discuss terms for ending this conflict." "The conflict ended months ago, Chancellor," replied HFY calmly. "Your empire is finished, your military is destroyed, and your allies have abandoned you. The only question now is what happens to the Vorthak people." The Chancellor's skin shifted to darker colors. "You speak as if you have won some great victory, but look around this galaxy. Wars rage on dozens of worlds. Trade has collapsed. Millions of beings suffer because of the chaos you have created." "The chaos we created?" Captain Jun-Ho spoke up from his position beside the Admiral. "Chancellor, you started this war by demanding that free beings surrender their freedom. Every system that fights now fights for the right to govern itself. You could have avoided all of this," added Admiral HFY. "If the Council had treated humanity as equals instead of trying to force us into submission, none of this would have happened." Chancellor Thyserak was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been regret. "We thought you were like all the other young species. We thought you would see our power and submit rather than face destruction. We were wrong." "Yes, you were," said Admiral HFY. "But being wrong does not have to mean being destroyed. The Free World's alliance welcomes any species that chooses to live in peace with its neighbors. Even the Vorthak? Even the Vorthak. But you would be one voice among many, not the dominant power you were used to being." The Chancellor considered this. What would be required? Democratic government for your remaining worlds. No more forced expansion or domination of other species. Participation in Alliance defense forces under Alliance command. Most importantly, acceptance that the age of galactic empires is over. The negotiations continued for 3 days. In the end, The Vorthak Empire became the Vorthak Republic, the last major power to join the Free Worlds Alliance. Even High Arbiter Quelnara of the Zelani eventually accepted Alliance membership when her confederation dissolved around her. But the real work was just beginning. Engineer Min Ho stood in the center of the new Galactic Communications network control room on Earth. Banks of quantum communication equipment filled the space, connecting every member world of the Alliance in real time. For the first time in galactic history, no species could be isolated or cut off from the rest of civilization. Network status report, he called to his team. All primary nodes are online, reported technician Hyarim. We have confirmed connections to 238 worlds across 47 species. Any interference or jamming attempts? None detected. The quantum entanglement system cannot be blocked by conventional methods. Minho smiled. The communication network was more than just a technological achievement. It was a guarantee that the mistakes of the old council could never be repeated. No species could ever again control information or prevent others from communicating freely. President Haiyan Wu was preparing for the most important speech of his career. In 1 hour, he would address the first session of the Democratic Galactic Assembly. Representatives from every Alliance species would participate as equals, with each species having 1 vote regardless of size or military power. Mr. President, said his aide, Secretary Yun Ji, the representatives are taking their seats. Are you ready? As ready as anyone can be to help create a new form of galactic government. The assembly hall was massive, built specifically for this occasion. Unlike the old council chambers where seating showed the relative power of different species, the new hall had identical seats arranged in a circle. No species sat higher than any other. President Hyunwoo walked to the central podium and looked around at the assembled representatives. A year ago, most of these species had been enemies or strangers. Today, they were partners in an experiment to see if different forms of life could govern themselves together without domination or force. Members of the Democratic Galactic Assembly, he began, we gather today not as conquerors and conquered, not as rulers and subjects, but as equals who have chosen to work together for our mutual benefit. The speech was broadcast throughout Alliance space using the quantum communication network. On every member world, beings watched as their representatives participated in the first truly democratic galactic government in known history. The old Galactic Council claimed to represent the galaxy's species, but it was controlled by the strongest and richest members. Smaller species had no real voice in decisions that affected their lives. That era is over. President Hyunwoo paused and looked directly at Chancellor Thissarak, who sat in the Vorthak Republic's seat. In this assembly, the newest member species has the same vote as the oldest. The smallest colony has the same rights as the largest empire. We will make decisions together, or we will not make them at all. The applause came from beings with different numbers of hands, making sounds that no single species could produce alone. But the meaning was clear. They approved of this new way of doing things. Some will say that democratic government cannot work on a galactic scale, continued the president. They will say that different species are too different to cooperate. They will say that only strong central control can maintain order among the stars. They are wrong. We have proven them wrong through our actions over the past year. We have shown that free beings can work together more effectively than enslaved beings. We have demonstrated that cooperation produces better results than domination. The first session of the assembly lasted for 6 hours. They established basic principles. No species could be forced to join the alliance, but any species could choose to leave if they wished. Decisions affecting all members required majority vote, but each member could govern itself however it chose as long as it did not harm others. Most importantly, they established the Galactic Defense Force under Alliance Command, with Admiral Hae Won as its first Supreme Commander. The force would protect member worlds but could never be used for conquest or expansion. But perhaps the most significant moment came when Dr. Young Mai presented the Technology Sharing Agreement. Unlike the old Council's policy of restricting technological development, the Alliance would share all non-military technology freely among its members. The quantum communication system that allows us to meet today will be available to every species in the galaxy, she announced. The medical advances that save lives will not be restricted to the species that developed them. The Agricu